the presidential limousine glittering. And this is announcing the arrival of the very special guest of honor, the reviewing officer, President and Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, His Excellency Muhammadu Buhari, GCFR, just received there by the Secretary to Government, the Commander Guard Brigade. He proceeds to exchange presidential pleasantries with the Vice President, the Senate President, the Right Honourable Speaker, His Lordship the Chief Justice, Honourable Minister of Defense, Honourable Minister of Federal Capital Territory, National Security Advisor, the Chief of Defense Staff, Chief of Army Staff, Chief of the Naval Staff, Chief of Air Staff, Inspector General of Police, the Director General SS, and the Director General NIA and the CDA. He proceeds to this. Please remain standing wherever you are seated, please, in deference to his exhaustion of his place. Thank you. Dignitaries, may please take your seats. Thank you. Thank you. The national salute that heralded the arrival of the very special guest of honor, the reviewing officer, President and Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, over, the parade commander, Lieutenant Colonel Salim Yusuf Hassan, marches towards the saluting days to give the essence of this epoch-making occasion and the state of officers and guards on parade to Mr. President, and to very diligently and respectfully request Mr. President to inspect the officers and guards on parade. We're going to witness that shortly.
Year 2022, Nigeria's Independence Day Anniversary Parade comes up. 29 officers, 450 members of the armed forces, Nigerian police, Nigerian legion, paramilitary agencies, organized labor, and members of the National Youth Service Corps Parade, ready for your inspection, Your Excellency.
Diligently delivered there by the parade commander, Lieutenant Colonel S.Y. Hazard, who also the commander of the prestigious Presidential 7 Guard Battalion. His Excellency, Mr. President, will be accompanied on this inspection by the Commander Guards Brigade, Brigadier General Mohammed Sakuti Usman. Happy Be, Your Excellencies. At this juncture, Your Excellencies, we take a brief look at the profile of the very special guest of honor. The very special guest of honor and reviewing officer for this historic occasion of the 62nd Independence Anniversary is His Excellency President Muhammadu Buhari. He was born on 17th December 1942 in Daura, Katsina State. He had his primary education in Katsina before joining the Nigerian Army as an officer cadet in October 1963. He had his military training in Nigeria, Great Britain, India, and the United States of America. In the course of his meritorious military and political career, he was appointed military governor of Northeastern State, now Borno State, in 1975. He also served as a federal commissioner for petroleum resources in 1976. The reviewing officer was appointed military secretary to Supreme Military Headquarters in 1977, chairman Nigerian National Petroleum Corporation in 1978, head of state commander-in-chief of the Armed Forces, the Federal Republic of Nigeria, from December 1983 to August 1985. The special guest of honor has undergone a number of military career training, amongst which are military training school, Kaduna 1963, Officers Cadet School Aldershot in the United Kingdom, October 1963. Platoon Commander Force, Nigerian Military College, Kaduna 1964. Mechanical Transport Officers Course, Army Mechanical Transport School, Gordon, United Kingdom 1965. Defense Services Staff College, Wellington, India 1973. United States Army War College from 1979 to 1980. After a successful military career in the Armed Forces of Nigeria, he was appointed Executive Chairman of the defunct Petroleum Trust Fund (PTF) from 1995 to 1999. The special guest of honor ran for the office of President 3 times. First in 2003, next was 2007, and 2011. He did not make it. On the third, and as a man of determination, driven by his commitment to serve this great nation, he contested again in the 2015 presidential election, where he emerged victorious and was inaugurated as a democratically elected president on 29 May 2015. After a successful 4-year tenure in office, President Muhammadu Buhari was re-elected for a second term on 23rd February 2019. Today, he is the very special guest of honor and reviewing officer for this historic 62nd Independence Anniversary Parade for British Nigeria. As a great sign of honor and appreciation, today's presidential parade, being the 62nd Independence Anniversary, to be inspected, and it will be officially the last for the special guest of honor to be inspected, and for this, the entire Nigerian Armed Forces, the Nigerian Police, and the various paramilitary security agencies and other bodies and organizations are using this unique opportunity to sincerely appreciate Mr. President during the past 8 years, consistently, the meritorious service to Nigeria and his unflinching support for the Nigerian Armed Forces in its ability to defend the Nigerian nation and its citizens alike. In further compliments to the special guest of honor, credible information reaching our announcer's desk states that the special guest of honor assured the world body of the 77th United Nations General Assembly that insecurity in Nigeria will soon be a thing of the past. This is resulting from a renewed effort by the Nigerian Armed Forces, the gallant officers and men of the Nigerian Armed Forces. He assured of credible elections in 2023 as Nigeria goes to the polls to elect a new president and other elective processes. He gave the assurance on Wednesday last week in what seems like a valedictory speech to the 77th United Nations General Assembly as he reverently told the world body that by same time next year, As it pleases the Most High God, Father, Nigeria will have a new president representing the nation. The reviewing officer vows to entrench a process of free, fair, transparent, and credible elections through which Nigerians will elect leaders of their choice. We must add that prayerfully Nigeria needs a selfless, God-fearing, and visionary leader. Indeed, a president whose mission is to bring about meaningful development, proceed to right the perceived wrongs, and bring about the equity and fairness. He has started, I will quote, "We believe in the sanctity of constitutional term limits, and we have steadfastly adhered to it in Nigeria. Ours is a vast country, strengthened by its
All right, thank you for staying. You're watching Daybreak Extra, having a special coverage on the Independence Day here in Nigeria, 62 years anniversary for the country post-independence. I have in the studio Jide Ojo, and also joining us virtually Mr. Kehinde Amodu, who are both analysts that will be giving us perspectives on this special occasion. Thank you so much for joining us on Daybreak.
Happy Independence Day.
Yeah, same here. Well, it looks like a very emotional one. You know, looking at those images from the Eagle Square, how the president is waving to Nigerians. It looks like, well, this is the very last function in terms of the Independence Day celebration that the president will be having. So what was the feeling like for you? Let me go to Kehinde Amodu over there, watching these images coming from the Eagle Square and seeing that this is perhaps the last Independence Day that the president will be witnessing as the Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces. Mr. Kehinde.
Your Excellencies, distinguished invited guests, ladies and gentlemen, we witness
All right. Okay. Okay, we'll get back to you, Mr. Kenny. We'll get back to you, Mr. Kehinde. It looks like we have technical issues with your audio, but let's come back to Mr. Jide Ojo. Listening to the president deliver his final Independence Day speech earlier today, and highlighting quite a number of issues. What's your take on some of the issues raised by the president?
Thank you very much. Happy Independence Day, Nigerians. We are glad to be alive and to be in a position to to even analyze this Independence Day speech. What he said hasn't been anything out of ordinary. There is a saying in my part of the world that if you give a madman a hoe, he will weed to his side. Translating that, you know, nobody will score himself a failure. If you give me an exam and I'm to mark myself, no matter how poor I perform, I will say I did my best and I did well. The president admitted that there are challenges. He recapped the commitments he made in the area of anti-corruption, in the area of insecurity, in the area of economy, and all of those pillars of his manifestos way back in 2015 and 2019. And he felt, yes, he admitted that there were challenges, but he did his level best to overcome, and that it's still a work in progress. And of course, no leader will want to leave the country despondent. But the truth is that Nigerians are in a hurry to see the back of the president, maybe going to Daura or to Kaduna, because he himself seems overwhelmed with what he's tackling. Recall that not too long ago in an interview, he said he's in a hurry to go. That's somebody.
But would you say that this administration, or I would say President Muhammadu Buhari in particular, is probably unlucky looking at the global dimension of things when he came into office? First, we had a drop in the price of global crude oil. Then we now have COVID-19, and then now Russia-Ukraine war and all of that. So it looks like for each time they make certain policies aimed at improving the lives of Nigerians, something that is out of their control just comes up.
I'm not superstitious, and I don't want to say he's unlucky. He himself admitted that he was lucky in spite of the initial challenge. This is not a job that was forced on him. He asked for it. And in the first 3 attempts that he failed at, he still kept trying, which means he felt he has the answers to our challenges. So I wouldn't say he's unlucky. Every administration faces its own challenges, even from the military era. So you cannot say and start making excuses for him. Don't forget, he's not the one doing the job. He hires and fires people. When he knows that the people he hired were not doing well, what did he do? For me, history would judge him not on the basis of the excuses he's making or anybody can make for him, but on the basis of actions and decisions he took. Look, today, let's take the issue of economy. He's a military general, so you cannot say he's an economist. But then, he has the prerogative to hire the best economist, whoever is a Nigerian under the planet Earth. He has the prerogative to hire, to woo, to law, to cajole, to lobby that person to come and help him fix the Rotatum. That is leadership. He is supposed to provide leadership. He's not supposed to provide excuses. You have executive powers. He was even lucky. Listen, he was even lucky that this night's assembly said whatever he brings will be approved for him, so that there will be no alibi. Oh, I had a frosty relationship with my parliament or with my National Assembly. That was why I
So will the hiring and the firing made any difference? Would it have made any difference?
Yeah,
in his administration?
It will have. It will have. Let me give you an illustration. When Roman Abramovich was the owner of Chelsea, the moment Chelsea is not doing well, he will not blame the players. What will he do? He will sack the coach and bring in a fresh coach. And that was why Chelsea became a brand that was largely identified with by Nigerians.
All right, so let me go to Mr. Kehinde Amodu, who is over there. Hiring and firing, will it have made any difference? After all, we have seen that some people under this administration were fired. For instance, if you look at the service chiefs, that a lot of Nigerians mounted pressure on the president to fire. And yet we do not seem to have experienced any improvement in terms of the issue of insecurity. Maybe in the last few weeks, but after the firing, we didn't really see any immediate impact.
So that's what a lot of people would think. But would it have made a difference? It depends on the direction that he decided to go with government. It depends on him solely. That's why I agree with Dr. Ojo that, yeah, the buck stops on his table. He has the opportunity to hire, to fire, to bring in people that will help him do well. If he sees that he's not doing well,
okay. All right. All right. All right. We'll come back to Mr. Kehinde Amodu. It appears that the military parade has just begun, and let's take a look at what's happening, giving us a sight and sound from the Eagle Square in the nation's capital. Give us the audio now. All right, we do apologize for the mix-up. It appears that our audio is still having a little issue. But let me go back to Kehinde Amodu for more perspectives on the speech delivered by the president. The president also talked about the issue of ASU. He talks about the issue of health, and how that we were able to do better with the issue of fighting COVID-19 when it came. All right, we'll stick with Mr. Jide Ojo in the studio. Apparently, technical issues has gotten Mr. Kehinde off. The president is saddened by the issue of ASU. He said that in his speech, and that he is urging, university lecturers to go back to the classrooms and all of that. Would you say that we have demonstrated enough will under this administration to deal with the issue of ASU?
No. No. You see, this is why I said history will not judge the president fairly on many counts, whether you are talking of anti-corruption, economy, insecurity, or education, or even health. You see, we should be mindful of what we do when we are in opposition. This president accused Goodluck Jonathan of not doing enough to resolve ASU crisis. He even was on tape saying that the money that Goodluck Jonathan used to organize national conference should have been used to resolve ASU issue. Meanwhile, Jonathan did not allow ASU issue to fester beyond 4 months. He sat down and resolved it in one night, when all his ministers were incapable of resolving it. And he ensured that at least he committed the initial 200 billion out of the 1.2 trillion that was meant to revamp the education sector in 6 years. When this administration came on board, the much that has been given to education sector for revitalization fund is just 20 billion. How can you say the president has done enough? Wait. Look at where our priorities lie. I don't know whether you saw a trending picture of a statement credited to the president when he went to Chatham House in February of 2015, where he was condemning education tourism, health tourism, and what he was going to do and all of that. Of all that he said at Chatham House, which one did you fulfill? Is it for lack of resources? He has borrowed to the hilt. Yes, we may not have made enough revenue because of this crisis you earlier mentioned, the Russian-Ukraine war, the COVID-19, the insurgency, the militancy in the Niger Delta. But then, each time he goes to the National Assembly, they gave him stamp of approval. Today, from 11 trillion or thereabouts, when he took over government, our debt portfolio has risen to 41.6 trillion. And in 2023 budget that is going to submit next week, they are talking of between 11 and 12 trillion to borrow. So if you have these resources, why then can't you make education of future leaders of Nigeria a priority? I've said it, maybe here, maybe other media platforms, that there will be a backlash on the lackadaisical attitude of this president on many issues, whether it's health, whether it's education. You have kept students of tertiary institutions in public schools at home for about 8 months. Wait. In 2020, just because of COVID-19 pandemic, that's why we didn't feel the impact. The ASU was on strike for 9 months. Now, less than 2 years after, ASU is on strike for another 8 months.
So we have heard several excuses by the administration as to the point that the issue of resources, and also to the issue of the fact that negotiations that were made before now were unrealistic to meet, and that they cannot keep up to some of the agreements that those teams had in the previous administration and all of that. So perhaps these are the reasons why the issue of ASU is still unresolved today.
I really do not agree. I sincerely do not agree. See, let's not make governance a rocket science. This thing is just about priority. The lecturers are asking for what? Funds, not necessarily increment in their own salaries and emolument, which is part of the bargain, but the revitalization of the university system. Now, Ayuba, you haven't been able to cater to the handful of universities you have. Under this administration, they have converted many polytechnics and colleges of education to university. Under this administration, there is still about 33 bills in the National Assembly being considered for creation of additional universities. Why? How could you have 3 children? You can't feed them. You now decide to go and marry more wives and having more children. Is that how to resolve an issue? You have not been able to adequately cater for existing one. Meanwhile, even if you peg, even if you say this for the next 5 years, let's not establish additional universities. Let's take care of the existing ones. There are alternatives for parents, which is what? The private universities, for those who cannot or do not meet with the stringent conditions of public. Now, take adequate care of the existing one. Did you know that today, if ASU strike is resolved, there will be between 20 to 30% reduction in the number of lecturers who will be available to teach our students. Already, National University Commission have withdrawn accreditation for many courses across public universities because they do not have the requisite number of lecturers. How will you attract lecturers to departments when the take-home pay is so paltry? And for the past 5 years that we have been operating IPPIS, which is another grant why ASU went on strike, that they want University Transparency and Accountability Solution. They just met with leadership of House of Reps a few days ago. UTAS was said to have scored 93%. The IPPIS that was imposed on us by Bretton Woods institutions in US was the last in terms of integrity test. Yet we were operating this IPPIS. It is why we are operating this IPPIS that our Accountant General of the Federation was still able to steal about 109 billion. While pretending that they are helping us to save money and to fight corruption. So I really don't know enough of excuses. This administration, for the first 4 years, they were behaving like they were still in opposition even when they won. Now, in the last 4 years, it's been excuses about COVID-19. It's been excuses about militancy, about insurgency. And yet, you have borrowed and borrowed and borrowed. And yet, corruption continues to fester. So, I think if you cannot stand the heat, don't go to the kitchen. He has opportunity to even resign. If he's too overwhelmed to govern us for the next 9 months or thereabout.
All right. Well, let's go back to Mr. Kehinde Amodu. I think that he is ready for us now. Mr. Kehinde, well, with all that is happening now, the current administration in the president's speech, has done quite a lot, especially if you look at, say, for instance, the issue of social investment programs, the issue of introducing programs and initiatives aimed at stimulating the economy. Yet we have an inflation that is, the highest in about 2 decades. So, what's your own assessment of these programs that were introduced?
Well, first and foremost, what the government will say is that it's a global phenomenon. Yes, it's a global phenomenon. But you see governments outside of this country taking steps to ensure that they negatively on the lives of the citizens. The social investment program, to me, is a knee-jerk reaction. If you have people that you are giving 5,000, 10,000, 20,000, and the prices of the standard of living or the cost of living is rising way beyond this, who have you taken out of poverty? So I think that in the first place, there should have been a more organized social investment program that would indeed impact on the lives of the vulnerable and the poor, so to speak. But but don't forget that the people in this country is not only the vulnerable and the poor that are in this country, although they make up a large percentage. But there are also the people in the rapidly vanishing middle class who are struggling to survive. So what are the incentives? What are those things that have been introduced in this very hard economic period to soften the blow of the inflation that has come up? We see that there is none. So to keep on, to just talk about social investment programs, which are not even going round the entire percentage of the entire population of the vulnerable and poor, is to say the least, looking at a policy that was introduced maybe 3-4 years ago and has not impacted fully in a crisis situation that we are in now.
All right, the president also touched on the issue of Nigeria's democracy. He is very particular about bequeathing a legacy of a transparent electoral process. He said that during his address at the United Nations General Assembly. He repeated that during his speech earlier today. So he seems quite very keen on making sure that we have a transparent electoral process. Are we on the path to making sure that we realize that in terms of the ruling party now, for instance?
Yes, I think that if there is somewhere where the president will get a pass mark, it's in the electoral reforms that have been introduced. It's in making INEC more effective, more autonomous, more able to deliver on its mandate of delivering elections that are credible. Credible, free and fair, I don't know about, because other factors have come in. You have factors of vote buying, which has become the largest single phenomenon in all the side elections that have been conducted up till now. We have also incidences of manipulation of the electoral laws, like we see in recent developments after the primaries of parties, in which you have substitution, and the substitution would want to take away the mandate that was credibly obtained by candidates. So those are things that are cropping up in the electoral process. So yes, the president and INEC and the government of the day have succeeded in making elections look more credible. But in the practice, how would we say that they have performed in ensuring, one, that the people get the candidates that they voted for, and in two, ensuring that politicians do not circumvent the system, manipulate the system to their own means.
All right, Mr. Jide, the president also talks about his desire to see more female participation in the electoral processes that's in our political system, on all of that. How have female inclusion or participation fared under this administration?
Very poorly. Very, very poor. In fact, the president called an ungo, even having that in his address. If he knew he was interested in more female participation in politics, what has he done to influence his own party, which is the ruling party, in ensuring that there is affirmative action within the party? Look, ANC in South Africa, African National Congress, it's not in the constitution of South Africa for them to have affirmative action. It is in the constitution of the ANC that they have reserved seat for women. This president, even the commitment he made at the Women's Center, National Women's Center here in Abuja, in the lead up to 2019 presidential election, where he promised to give women 35% position, cabinet position. Did he fulfill it? Today, we have 43 cabinet ministers, himself inclusive, and only 6 women. 6. And out of these 6, 3 of them are junior ministers. Minister of State for Transport, Minister of State for FCT, Minister of State for which other one? The substantive one are just Minister of Humanitarian Affairs, Minister of Women Affairs, Minister of Finance, Budget and National Planning. Those are the 3 that are, full-time cabinet ministers. The other 3 are junior ministers. I think Minister of State for Environment, Minister of State for Transport, Transportation, and Minister of State for FCT. So, if out of 43 that you are at liberty to appoint, you could not influence at least 35, and it's a policy of government. It's a 2006 gender policy that affirmative, that 35% position in elective and appointive position shall be given to women. This, in fact, it was the lackluster inclusion of women into the governance system of Nigeria that makes women group to approach a federal high court that gave judgment 3 months ago that there is a constitutional breach in non-mainstreaming gender into Nigerian governance system. I don't know whether you are aware of that Justice Okoronko's judgment around July this year, that it's a breach of our constitution, Section 42, that talks about non-discrimination. But the president, instead of showing the lead, refused to do so. Even in appointment into MDAs, there are over 1,000 MDAs in this country. Tell me, what is the percentage? Let them come out with the statistics of percentage of women that are heading any of these ministries, departments, and agencies. How will he not find women of substance globally At least somebody brought Okonjo-Iweala from abroad. Okay. Somebody brought this woman, the one that was Minister of Finance in the first tenure, Kemi Adeosun. Okay. You can bring anybody from planet, in as long as that person is in Nigeria. There are women doing great things across the globe that the president should have attracted back to. Minister of the Assistant General Secretary. Was
Zainab.
This woman Amina was formerly a minister of environment here before she was appointed into that position. And there are many other women that could have been brought on board that are doing great things both within and outside of Nigeria that the president should have attracted. But beyond that, why did he, assuming without considering that the shop is already closed, nominations have been concluded. We are now in the campaign period. What stops the president from reshuffling his cabinet and appointing women, at least between 13 to 15 women, to say, on this one stretch, I want to make amends. I want to atone for my sins. But to just be making it's just rhetorics. It's just rhetorics.
Well,
very unfortunate.
Well, we'll get back to the studio, but for now, let's go back to the Eagle Square, where we'll be getting live feeds on what's happening right now at the Eagle Square as far as the Independence Day celebration is concerned. We are seeing that there's a parade going on, so let's head back there.
The microphone now switched over to my co-announcer, the announcer's box, Lieutenant Obi Lukodano. Lieutenant Lukodano, please. Thank you. Thank you, sir.
Your Excellencies, distinguished invited guests, ladies and gentlemen, what you are witnessing right now are various guards marching backward to pave way for the next event that will be displayed on this arena. As event is unfolding here today live at Eagle Square, Abuja, Nigeria, venue for Nigeria's 62nd Independence Day Anniversary Parade, year 2022. Your Excellencies, distinguished invited guests, senior officers both serving and deservedly retired, officers, ladies and gentlemen. Next on the program is Festive Parade by Guards Brigade Drill Squad and displayed by Nigerian Army paratroopers. invited guests, ladies and gentlemen, advancing smartly into this arena, a prestigious squad from Gas Brigade with total strength of 18 personnel. We have 17 males and a female, and it is commanded by Staff Sergeant Samaila Ibrahim. As you can see, they are marching forward to pay compliment to the special guest of honor before commencing with their display. That is Staff Sergeant Ibrahim Samaila marching forward to pay compliment to the special guest of honor.
God will guide you from God. Come down. For the sticky display. May I have the permission to carry on with display. Your Excellency.
Permission sought and graciously granted by the special guest of honor, the President and Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces, Federal Republic of Nigeria, President Muhammadu Buhari, GCFR. Your Excellencies, it will interest you to know that the Royal Regiment of Artillery claims to be the originator of Pestic, as it was used by its speed gun team to ensure correct distance between the guns. This Pestic was more like a walking stick with a silver knob, which can be opened like a pair of calipers. From this, the infantry developed the Pestic as an aid to drill. In the year 2005, Master Warrant Officer Bala Aldo retired, was opportune to attend his advanced drill course in Sandos. He later introduced Pesticing in slow time in the Nigerian Army in the year 2012. Warrant Officer Adamu Adams and Staff Sergeant Riba Bala in the year 2021 improved and introduced Pesticing in quick time in the Nigerian Army. What we are witnessing now, the drill squad are twirling the stick while marching, as the stick can be made to walk alongside its other at the proper pace. The Pestic has been improved to ensure 30 inches is achieved, as 30 inches is the normal marching pace in any parade. A Pestic is a long stick usually carried by warrant officer, not commissioned officers, drill instructors in the Nigerian Armed Forces as a symbol of authority. The stick can be opened so that the tip separates at fixed distance corresponding to various lengths of marching pace, such as quick march, slow march, etc. Holding their Pestic now with their left arm, paying compliment to the special guest of honor. When the Pestic is opened to the correct pace length, the Pestic can be held alongside the other's body by the inch, with one leg of the stick vertical to the ground and the other leg pointing forward. While marching on parade, it is normally carried stuck tightly under the left arm and parallel to the ground, with the left arm grasping the stick near the top. A Pestic usually consists of two pieces of wood, each at the top, and tampering towards the bottom, very similar to large wooden drafting compasses used on a school blackboard. They are usually short and fitted with highly polished brass. We can see the synchronization of steps, body movement alongside the Pestic, showing professionalism and capability of the drill squad. Dexterity in Pestic handling shows the discipline and intelligence exhibited by the drill squad. Now what you are witnessing, they are about to close the Pestic in order for them to march in quick time. They are closing the Pestic with the help of the Pestic gauge. And the plastic parts include the plastic egg, the plastic
from the live images from the Eagle Square, where the Independence Day celebration is ongoing at the moment, Nigeria's 62 years anniversary. And we're here in the studio talking about the issues that were highlighted in the president's speech earlier, and also some of the burning issues right now in the country. I have Jide Ojo, public affairs analyst, and also Mr. Kehinde Amodu, who are both analysts speaking to us on some of these issues. Now, 62 years down the line after independence, one issue that continues to haunt us as Nigerians, or I would say continues to come back to our national discourse, is the issue of Nigeria's unity and cohesion and all of that. How would you assess how much we have achieved in the past few years as far as fostering unity among Nigerians?
Again, unfortunately, this is a low point for the president, the outgoing president, because now he's outgoing. Everything he does from today going forward is counting down to his exit. It's a very low point that he ran the country in a nepotistic way, so much so that our fault lines became sharpened and became blatant. Quite unfortunately, in terms of the provisions of Section 3 of the Constitution, which talks about national unity and national loyalty and national cohesion, he has not fostered that unity. You saw the elders-farmers clashes. For many years under this administration, everybody that is a Fulani became endangered because of the impunity of few who are grazing on the farmland of the farmers. And the way the presidency handled that was not very professional. It was partisan, it was lopsided, because these cattle rearers became like a law on their own. And people were saying, look at the devastating havoc that was wreaked on many of our farmlands. And you say, well, they are part of they are your brothers, accommodate them. And that is not the way to resolve the issue. Equity, justice, and fair play was not brought to bear. And you could see the president even trying to trace the ancient landmarks of cattle grazing routes. Is that the solution in 21st century, where development and industrialization has taken over? How could you be wanting to trace the grazing routes of 1962? When in 1977 we now have a Land Use Act that have already annexed all lands and given it to states to control. So how will you now say the federal government doesn't? That's why the Aso Villa is paying rent to FCTA, because no land belongs to the president or to the federal government. But away from that, if you look at in terms of religious and ethnic divides, it has widened because of the way and manner appointments have been made. There have not been any effort to consciously mainstream the principle of what is called federal character principle. The federal character principle has been observed in breach. If you want to put a light to what I'm saying, ask the head of service to bring the nominal of public servant or civil servant. You will see. Let's look at the appointments that have been made under the military or the armed forces in the last 8 years and see. Well, so these are things that if equity, justice, and fair play have been brought to bear, definitely the president will have been scored very high in terms of unity in diversity.
All right. So let's go to Mr. Kehinde Amodu there. Mr. Kehinde, what's your own assessment as to issues that has to do with fostering national unity and cohesion in the country as we move forward?
Well, we need to look at it from two perspectives. Unfortunately, one could say that the government, that's the first perspective, has not fostered the unity, the peace and unity that it's supposed to be to be the custodian of, because of policies, because of double speak, because of issues, somersaults, policy somersaults, because of issues that tend to favor one part of the country to the other. That has been our reality over the past 7 years. But when you talk about unity and being fostered by the people of the country, you see that the people have done their best to foster unity. There have been intertribal marriages. There have been people that work in all parts of the country and have been made to feel welcome there. So the point about Nigerian unity, I tend to see it from those two perspectives. Has government kept to its side of fostering unity? No, it has not. Unity is not just something you speak about. It's something you act on. It's something that everybody sees your body language as pursuing, as championing. And that has not been done by government in the present reality. But what we know, what we understand is that the people themselves have fostered unity. It reminds me of what Bishop Kuka said a few days ago, that the problem that the country has is not with unity. It's not with religion. It's not with ethnic divisions. It's with identity crisis. Identity politics, that our identity politics has not been played well. And he says, well, if you go to the normal average Nigerian on the street, they see themselves as Nigerians. But the whole issue is that when politicians want to have their way, they bring in the issues of ethnicity and religion.
All right. All right. All right, so thank you so much, Mr. Kende, for your perspectives there. Now, how can we foster this issue of unity? During the, I would say, last days of President Goodluck Jonathan in office, we had the national conference in 2014. Mm. And a lot of people have said, why don't we go back to some of the recommendations and some of the consensus at the national conference for us to be able to, take care of some of the issues that have continued to prop up every now and then whenever you talk about Nigeria's unity and progress?
Well, unfortunately, we've been playing politics with governance in Nigeria. When this administration came on board, the president was asked whether he was going to implement the national conference report. He said, well, it's not, he hasn't seen it, and even if he sees it, he doesn't think it's the way forward. But that conference provided about 600 recommendations that, if they are properly distilled, could have helped. And that's what bipartisanship is all about. Not minding who did what. It's the resources of the federal government that was used to convey that, and they were representatives of the people. I would have expected that this president would have dusted up that report and ensured the implementation, at least in phases. Look at it now. Today, we are engaging Tompolo to help us secure the pipelines. Did you know that what I found out from the streets was that there was exacerbation of oil theft the moment the Petroleum Industry Act was passed, and only 3% was given to host community. And even that 3%, there is a caveat that for you to get it, you must not vandalize the pipeline. But who determines who vandalizes the pipeline? Sometimes there are deliberate, there are leakages arising from weak pipelines that the international IOCs, international oil companies, will just blame on the communities, on the people in the community, and say, oh, they are the one that vandalized. Meanwhile, the pipe was due for replacement many years ago and wasn't done. So now, you remember the argument about 5% and 3%, but eventually, while House of Reps, I think, was rooting for 5%, Senate said 3%. They went into conference committee, took the lower limit, which is 3%. Now, the communities are taking what is duly theirs, because now they didn't see oil theft as criminal. They see it as is their own wealth, commonwealth that is in their backyard, for which they have been denied. So what I'm making that allusion to issue of national unity and peace. You cannot have peace without justice. We are trying to have peace without justice. Even some of the bandits that you have, those who became bandits and kidnappings today, kingpins of kidnappers today, many of them have grouses with the state. That's why they took to that crime. Okay. For instance, look at the number of, we earlier talked about the universities shut down for getting to 8 months now. Some of those who are in the university, some belong to core groups. Now they have been taken out of school system for this long. 8 months is a session in a university. They lost a session in 2020. They are losing a session in 2022. How will you expect some of these boys not to go into crime?
All right.
So the justice aspect has not been accentuated.
All right.
That's why there is a illusion of peace.
All right. Thank you so much. Justice is critical to finding peace. I think that's a place for us to end the discussion on Daybreak Extra. Thank you so much, Jide Ojo, for joining us on Daybreak Extra, this special coverage.
My pleasure.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Kende Amodu, for joining us as well for this special coverage on Nigeria's independence. Once again, let me say happy independence to you both.
Thank you very much.
All right. With that, we've come to the end of our special coverage. Well, not necessarily the end, but maybe the commentaries here in the studio. We would go back to the Eagle Square, where we will leave you with a live coverage of the Independence Day celebration. My name is Ayuba Ilya. Thank you so much for joining. Stay tuned to the channel. We have loads and loads of programs lined up for you for today. Please stay. Bye for now.
Nigeria is on its own, very, 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 very symbolic there. There we have, to the left, we're going to have first, next to it will be the letter O, and next to it will be letter C, and the next is letter T. Please put your hands together. 1st October has been, the acronym is right there. 1st October, 1 for first, OCT for October. Thank you. Great drill. We must also commend the RSM of these great children. He is Warrant Officer Danjuma Mohammed,